We are talking about your money tonight and how to make the most of it, even during these volatile times. So thank you, first of all, for joining us. We're coming up on the half hour. Dale Smothers is here with me, founder and president of RDS Wealth Management. Dale, thank you again for being here. We've already learned a lot. I want to jump off the conversation we were just having about choosing the right advisor and what value is there in that?
Yeah, so there's actually several articles that have given a value to an advisor, and they're as high as 1.5%, maybe 2%, depending on how you figure it, per year, and over a period of time.
That adds up.
That adds up. So the primary reason for that is probably the behavioral coaching. We had talked about this, greed buy and fear sale.
Yes.
The idea of being able to talk to a client and say, hey, this is not the right time to take money to market. We talk to a lot of farmers. We're South Central Kentucky, North Central Tennessee.
Yeah.
We're serving a demographic that's full of farmers. And the funny thing is, whenever they walk in, they say, I don't know much about the stock market, but the reality is they live it every single day.
That's a good point.
And we use the analogy of if beef goes on sale, you don't round up all your cows and take them to market because they're not as valuable as they once were. We think of that like stocks as well, and ultimately they are livestock. Right? They're live stocks that are held out there. If you've got a share of Amazon and it went on sale 30%, you don't take it to market right then. It might even be a good time to add to. So there's this buy high and sell low mentality that needs to be reversed.
Right.
Buying low and selling high is the goal. And if you're a long-term investor, you can't be in and out. You just can't. So that buy low, sell high maybe suggests that we should be completely out when it's low and completely in when it's high. That's not realistic. There's just no way for us to know when the highs and lows are. I think a more realistic thing would be to add when it's low and to trim when it's high. Take a little bit of your winnings off the table. The advisor makes all the difference, and being able to talk to an advisor about so many more things. If we're talking about specifically retirement planning, which is what we specialize, the investment part is the easy part.
Oh, really?
The investment part is the easy part. It's all the fear and worry about Medicare, Social Security, when to claim, how to claim, who should claim, are we getting enough? You'd be surprised how many people we talk to about the spousal benefit, didn't even know that was in existence. These types of benefits are things that we would specialize in. Funny story, I had a young friend of mine, he just bought his new home, he was about to move in, and he was taking possession of the keys, and he said, no one told me when to turn the electric on.
Oh.
And within 2 or 3 hours, the electric company has come in to turn off his electric. I know that's funny, that's a 22-year-old, I'm 35, I'm thinking, Lord have mercy, that kid doesn't know what he's doing. But the reality is, when we get into retirement, we're the 22-year-old who just got our new set of keys.
Right.
We've got to have someone there to tell us when to turn the electric on. And that's the hard part that we help with an advisor. When and how do we file for Social Security? When do we start to plan for long-term care? Because, like I said, we're talking to a demographic that says, I don't want the IRS or Uncle Sam taking my farm.
Right.
How do we make sure that doesn't happen? That's the hard stuff that we have to talk about.
I understand when you explain it like that, because watching parents go through different illnesses, death of a spouse, it's heart-wrenching, and it's very overwhelming too. Everything that you immediately have to consider.
And to have someone that you can lean on makes all the difference in the world.
It really does. I want to get back to all that in just a second, but I want to talk about building a portfolio first, and what are some steps and strategies people should be thinking about?
For sure. For the sake of time, we'll just kind of cut into, there's different steps along the way. And of course, if you want to think of it like climbing a mountain, we actually talk about this climbing Mount Everest. More deaths occur on the climb of Mount Everest climbing down, because it takes an entirely different set of skills. It's not climbing anymore, it's rappelling. As a matter of fact, Sir Edmund Hillary was supposedly the first one to climb the mountain, Mount Everest. One before him went without a guide. We talk about the value of an advisor.
Right.
There are things called Sherpas. Sir Edmund Hillary had his Sherpa. He had his guide. The gentleman before him didn't, and supposedly made it to the top and never made his way down. So, and his name escapes me, or I would actually quote that name, but that's a revolutionary mind shift. If you can think of that, it's a paradigm shift for you, because climbing in retirement is very similar. The closer you get to the top, which we would consider, say, retirement day, the closer you get, the slower you need to be going. You know, the more pitfalls that are out there.
Right.
You don't have all of the human capital, as we were talking before, to make up for the fall in the stock market. So if you're 20 years away from retirement, right now is the time to be buying. You should be buying, you know, obviously still structuring the portfolio with some sense of balance, but bonds aren't a place you would be putting a lot of your money right now. We'd be buying really good growth stocks that are on sale. If you're 10 years from retirement, I think starting to shift into dividend yielding, looking for value stocks, which they're now, again, this is why the easy part of the retirement picture is investing. If you point the thing in the right direction and just stomp on the gas, 10 years from now, it's going to be up. Right? But whenever you're 5 years or fewer, retirement red zone, that's the dangerous part. So let's hone in on how to build a portfolio 5 years or fewer. At this point in time, I can't tell you that 5 years from now the market's going to be higher than it is today. I just can't. I'd like to be able to. 10 years from now, I think it's a very high probability. 5 years from now, it may not be. And so what do we do right now to start planning for income? When it gets to retirement planning, you've got to be able to give your money some tasks, and you've got to have 3 tasks assigned. We've got a safe bucket, we've got an income bucket, and we've got a growth bucket. We call that the safety, income, and growth approach. Being able to put money in those 3 buckets properly will allow you to safeguard the money that you can't lose, turn the money into income that you need to turn in, and with some proper planning, 5 years from retirement, that money that we need for income, we were talking about the 4% rule earlier. If you are going off of the 4% rule, the worst case is you opened up your statement the day you're about to retire, you have $1 million and you say, okay, now I can save, or I can spend $40,000 a year. With a little bit of planning, we may be able to actually take less than that $1 million and still get you that $40,000 a year. So instead of holding 100% of your money captive and hostage, we maybe hold 70% of your money hostage to generate the income we need, leaving 30% for the growth bucket, which is there to take care of the grandkids or buy the camper that you always want. We talk about retirees, they're with a improperly structured plan. Retirees have these goals and dreams and ambitions. You know, Tom Hegna's famous for saying, we all want to tour the world, join the country club, you know, see the grandkids, see the world. Whenever we die, because we didn't spend our money, we live this what if retirement. What if the Fed chair raises interest rates? What if we go to war? What if oil prices? This what if retirement means we don't spend our money. We don't spend our money. We don't spend our money. When we die, the kids get it, and guess what they do? They spend the money.
They spend it.
They go see the world. They join the country club. They buy the boat. We want you to be able to do that while you're living.
And that's the important part when you talked about it's not just investing. It is the plan. It is looking at everything.
It's the plan. And so how do we structure that? Again, giving it task is necessary. On the growth side, or the money that you've got in the market right now, we like to, we call this our CPR method, where we'll perform CPR on a client's account. And you got to have some money in cash, because when the market is down, that's when we're going to buy. So that's when we're adding when it's low. Got to have some money in cash, got to have some money in protection, and you got to have some money in risk. CPR, cash, protection, risk. Those types of investments depend, and again, if we have time, we can maybe even get into some of those types of investments that make up those 3 strategies.
Well, let's talk about that right now. We have some time. So what do you think?
So cash is cash. We know what cash is. We know where it's going to go. When the market's down, it's not going anywhere. When the market's up, it's not going anywhere. So you want a small amount of cash on hand, no doubt. Because when the market is down, we can allocate cash to our risk position. Protection, CPR. Protection, we want products, you know, investment products that will allow us downside protection with some upside participation. Now, there's a slew of those. One of the things that we like to use are ETFs that will trade options. So we have a certain ETF right now, JEPI, and again, no recommendations made on this show. I'm not at all recommending everybody run out and buy this. But I'm telling you, that type of strategy allows us to buy good blue chip companies. Now, bringing it down to
Yep.
the layman's level.
Blue chip means?
Blue chip is a strong company that's been around for a very long period of time to the point where they're paying back dividends.
Gotcha.
Dividends are essentially residual cash. They don't have any goals they're not growing more, they're not building new factories, they're not hiring more people. We got this much money, we're going to pay it out to all the shareholders. That's a dividend. So we buy those types of companies, been around for a while, they're not going anywhere, and then we're selling calls. Now, I won't get into the weeds on that. You don't even really need to understand that. But what that allows us to do is, in a flat market, we make money. In a down market, we make money. In an up market, we make money. That's the protection side. Another strategy that we have is buffered ETFs, which gives us downside protection, upside participation. One more that's really powerful is the fixed index annuity. Ultimate downside protection, a little less upside participation. Those types of things belong in your protection side. Risk. That's what everybody talks about, right? That's the stocks, maybe bonds, because they're pretty risky right now too. That's your Amazons, Apples, Googles, Teslas, the name brands, right? That's risk. Now, depending on how much you allocate to each one, you put a lot in cash, a lot in protection, you can be a lot more risky. Less money in risk means you can be riskier. If you've got all of your money in risk, you've got to go out and be really conservative. So what we found is by putting some downside protection, transferring the risk into these banks or these investment companies or these insurance companies, by utilizing that P of the CPR, the protection point, we can be more risky with our Amazons, Apples, Teslas that aren't paying dividends, but they have tremendous upside potential. Ultimately, growing your account more efficiently and more effectively.
That's what we all want, right?
Yes, ma'am.
I mean, that's the end game.
100%.
Let's talk about some of those other things that come into retirement planning, like long-term care. This is something that we're seeing more and more people deal with as people start to live longer.
Yes, ma'am.
Although I think the life expectancy somehow has dropped, but more people are living longer and they're saying, I don't want to go into a nursing home. Or, you know, this is what I want, this is not what I want, and I certainly don't want them taking my house or the farm. How do you counsel people?
Single biggest expense a retiree will encounter is healthcare, and that is in the form of Medicare and long-term care. So long-term care insurance has been a thing that's been in existence for a very long period of time. You know, it essentially insures against the need for going into a nursing home. It allows you to pay the nursing home out of a pool of money that's not really yours. You've just been putting premium back to have access to that money. That's how long-term care insurance works. I say it's a thing of the past, in my opinion, because the downside to long-term care insurance is not only is it expensive, and let me walk that statement back just a little bit. If you think long-term care insurance is expensive, you should try not having it when you need it. Right. So I'm not at all saying you don't need it, but there may be a better version of long-term care insurance. Insurance companies have become very savvy. They understand that people weren't buying it because it was expensive, and if you didn't use it, you lose it. That's not the thing that happens anymore. These hybrid type plans allow us to have a pool of money that's accessible to us in the form of long-term care, even potentially a pool of money that's available to us for retirement income, tax-free retirement income, and the ability to pass that on if you don't use it to a beneficiary. So it's this hybrid, all-inclusive life insurance, long-term care, retirement plan. That is good for some people. Not for everybody, but for some people. Long-term care planning, it starts with a plan. Where are you at financially? Because you can have such a small amount of money that you don't need long-term care plan. You can have such a large amount of money that your long-term care plan is, just pay for it. It's those middle-of-the-road people. Those people that you know, they're not in poverty, but they're definitely not the ultra-rich either. Maybe they have $1 million, $2 million. They have a farm, they have land, they have things that are very illiquid, which is a fancy word for saying it's hard to turn it into cash. Illiquid assets won't pay for long-term care unless you sell the farm. Right? And that's ultimately what happens. So being able to put a plan together in conjunction with an estate attorney is absolutely necessary. How do we counsel people? Start with a plan. Find an advisor, start with a plan. A good retirement planner can decide if it makes sense for us to transfer some risk to an insurance company or to put a plan together to be able to say, hey, listen, we're past the point of being able to transfer risk. if something happens to you today, we're going to put these steps into motion to where 5 years from now, you can apply for Medicaid and they can't touch anything.
Right.
And those are strategies that we would consider even Medicaid planning. And whenever I talk to a higher net worth client, they're like, well, Medicaid plan, I don't need Medicaid
I don't
plan.
need that.
It's all about making sure that someone else can help pick up that bill without having to sell the farm.
Everything. Very good.
And you got to be really careful not to get into Medicare fraud there.
Right,
but there are legal ways for us to pass that on to the Medicaid system, which is what it's designed for.
Yep.
And still safeguard some money to pass on to a beneficiary.
Very good. Okay, we have to take another quick commercial break. We're coming back after this.